why I decided to do this. So I'm issuing a challenge. I'm calling it the Tattoo Challenge to get me to 5,000 subscribers before the 16th of August 2020. And if you guys help me get there, I get a tattoo. Yeah. And not just any tattoo, one that is chosen by you guys. So also let me just make one thing clear. I don't like needles. I'm petrified of needles. I do have one tattoo and that was a mission to get. So this isn't gonna be easy for me. A tattoo is permanent. Anyway, with that being said, enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Talk, a show where we talk about general topics, current affairs, and sometimes conspiracy theories. But today we're going to be talking about, a general topic. We're going to be talking about traveling and cultural intolerance. As you can see on my right, might surprise you that some of you may know him as a tobacco farmer, but it is Herman Roos, who is with me today to talk about this stuff, which I know, you're thinking, why is a farmer talking about traveling? Well, Herman, I'm going to let you answer that question.
Hi, Joe, and thank you for giving me the time to appear on your channel. It is amazing and wonderful to talk something different than what's been going on in our industry. As you said, I'm a tobacco farmer, and as of late, the whole thing around tobacco was a bit getting on our nerves. And yeah, Joe, ever since as a kid, when we went on holiday, I was the type of one that would wander off. My parents would constantly be searching for me, and they'll find me. Maybe we wish to, as kids, go caravanning, at Sodwana or wherever. And they would find me 3, 4 stands down the line, making friends, chatting to children. And that's just me. That was who I am. Or they'll look for me and they'll find me down on the beach, looking for a new place. And as I grew up, that was as a student, let me put it this way. My first taste for a foreign country was when we did evangelistic work in Tanzania. We did outreach there. And it's so much the whole idea of meeting foreigners, meeting new cultures, um, learning from them, and being to see a different way of living touched me so much that it just awoke my wanderlust inside me, and I wanted to continue with this for as long as possible. Then I met my wife, who she also has the same disease as me, wanderlust. And yeah, I took her for our honeymoon. I remember I still had 4 cattle, back then. I sold my 4, and I took us on honeymoon to Zanzibar. And ever since then, it never stopped. We've been married now for 12 years, thanked by the grace of God. And we've been to 22 countries. My wife bit more because she did Ireland and England. She's a bit on the top side there. And yeah, our son was born in 2014, a major blessing in our lives. And he himself has been to, I think, last time I checked in his passport, 8 countries, 6 or 8 countries. But that's for him to count, not for me. Yeah, that's basically in a nutshell where my craziness started.
Wow. All right. Well, for those, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your channel? Because I want people to know that they can go to the description below and subscribe to your channel. And I want people to go there because it's a very interesting. I checked out a few videos. Very interesting stuff that you do there. I think it's also a different perspective. So tell us a little bit more about your channel and how that got started.
Joe, you know, being a traveler, to to give you guys a bit of a background, when we started traveling, I don't know if the guys or you would remember, you still had that got those little books, Let's Go Traveling. I don't know if you know them.
I think
It
so.
was, yeah, and you would buy this book about a country. Sorry if I rub my nose, guys. I worked with chemicals today, and it sort of irritates my nose. And back then, that was your, let's say, passport to a new country. It would have been backpackers and different travelers writing this. And as the time progressed, we started more leaning on blogs, travelers writing blogs, YouTube videos. But for the most, all of these things were either written by Europeans or Americans. There's not a Afrikaans, or let's say not Afrikaans, sorry for that, a South African version um, of that same. And for a few years now, I've been tinkering with the idea to get content out there and to try and describe what we experience, to give people travel tips. And with this whole lockdown happening, and I started doing my show live stream, all the live streams with Roman and Jim and these guys. I started realizing that it's not that difficult. And I said to my wife, you know what? It's time for us to get going, to share our ideas about traveling. In the beginning, I thought it will be sort of the same as what we do now, and I realized that that is one part. But those the 10-minute travel tips that um, I give that out of my own experience. There's no science and proof behind it all.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to go to the comment section really quickly.
Yeah.
Yanni Vanderbilt saying, hello, peeps. Robin Hassan
Yeah.
saying, good evening. And Mr. Punisher has joined us saying hello. And Brazos, sorry, Planet Q
Yeah.
saying hello, Joe and Herman, everyone. All the usual suspects, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, if you have any questions about this specific topic, please don't hesitate to ask. All right. So, go and support Herman in his channel. Please go subscribe. The link is in the description below. Yeah, let's see. Traveling. So I think where we should probably start is you just said that your son has been to like 8 different countries, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I've been to. Okay, so I was in the States, and I moved. Well, I didn't. I moved in Texas quite a lot, but I traveled to Florida, New York. Apparently, I was in Mexico when I was a baby. Um, I don't remember it. I was like 1 year old or something.
Mm,
But there's pictures.
mm,
And then I know we went somewhere. Colorado was the first time I saw
mm,
snow. And then I've been to Barcelona. I've been to England, London. I've
mm,
been to obviously Egypt. We traveled in Egypt, and now South Africa. And I've been around in South
mm,
Africa. Uh, Three very different, or four very different cultures all around. Europe is a very different culture to Egypt,
mm.
to South Africa, and to America. All of them very, very different cultures. So, where have you been? Where have you been? Like for me, Egypt was a very big culture shock for me. I couldn't. I mean, I respected the culture. I definitely enjoyed experiencing the culture, but I didn't conform to it. If that makes sense. Did you have a similar experience?
Um, as I said, Joe, for me, my first culture shock was Tanzania when we did outreach there. Um, it was about 2, 3 weeks later after returning. Still remember, I was sitting at university and I was eating this hamburger, and suddenly it dawned on me that, you know what, I've been between people for 3 weeks that has been this is one thing that happened, and this is sure. Now it hits me again. You've been asked. We were doing a door-to-door evangelistic work, and we went to this one lady, and Joe, she had nothing. All right, she was the poorest of the poor, and I sort of wanted to skip that house, skip because I felt, yeah, I am, and it's easy for me to bring the word of God, to these people. It's easy. And she didn't want us to go past the house. She wanted us to give her a message. So we gave her the message, and of everything that she had tea in her house, and she shared that tea with us. It was the most loveliest cup of tea that I've ever had in my life, and it was the best company
Yeah.
on all my travels that I had. And I remember that, and for me to adapt to that, I realized I had to travel.
Mm.
And ever since that day, I've been searching for that moment, I think again. I've been searching, I think I lost a part of my heart in Tanzania. And I think my soul is still looking for that part of my heart. And people will ask me, "Is like, which country do you love the most?" I said, part of my heart stayed behind in Tanzania. Still, part of my heart stayed behind in Malawi. India stole a part of my soul, and Asia uh, has literally taken over my mind.
Mm.
Um, Europe, not that much, to be quite honest. Europe, for me, is if I want to go and visit my ancestors, and then I'll go and visit Europe. Europe was nice for the history,
Yeah.
to get back to your roots, to know who you are, where you come from. Um, but for me, I'm still searching. I'm still searching for that one moment in life that changed my view on people
Mm.
and other cultures.
Mm. Yes. So we've just been joined by Reese Vandervolt. Thank you so much
Hello,
for
Reese.
tuning in. Reese. It's good to see you here. And Chico has just joined us as well. So if anybody has any travel stories, please let us know in the comments below or in the
Yeah.
live chat. I'd like to hear from you. So yeah, my uh, cultural shock was again Egypt. I lived there for 9 years. I just couldn't get into the way of life that they had. I was very much still believed I was American. Well, I am American, but
Mm,
that was a very tough time for me as well
mm,
during that time. But like like your experience now with Tanzania, which by the way, my wife's been to Tanzania. She had the lucky opportunity to go on business, and I wish I went with her because she also told me how the people there are so like just welcoming. They want to,
mm.
share everything with you,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
very kind people. And
Yeah.
the food apparently is like next level amazing.
It's amazing.
The fruits, the rice. I've had Tanzanian rice. Oh my word, the best
Out of
rice.
out of the books. You're touching on a subject that's very important to me for is food.
Yeah.
That's why I've got a bit of a belly,
Hey, well, me too,
throat
man.
belly. Uh, you know, every country has its food, and I can tell you a lot about food because that's I travel to eat and I eat to travel. And Tanzania, there's one thing they do make. What they do is they take cassava
Mhm.
and they'll grind it into a fine paste. And then they'll take the rice, that excellent rice that you've been talking about. I think the reason why we love it is because it's actually fresh rice. It's not like it's been on a ship from either from the east to South Africa and then packed into a warehouse. And what they'll do is they'll use coconut shavings. They have like this funny chair they sit on, and they'll like shave out the coconut on the inside, and they'll mix that into like a porridge. And that, if you've eaten that with wali, there's the thing also they call wali namarahagi. Joe, if somebody can make that for me in South Africa, it's rice and sauce beans. And
Sauce beans.
yeah, it's a bean. They cook it. It like takes them like 12 hours to cook this bean. It's a very hard bean, and they make it with like, I don't know if it's like a sauce. But the taste is it's that literally that Arabian influence
Is it
on.
green?
No,
Okay.
it's a brown. It's a brown,
Does
and
it
they
taste
call
like
it.
a sunflower kind of seed?
No, it's a
Okay.
bean. It's brownish reddish bean,
Okay.
and wali namarahagi. And up until today, if you put a plate of wali namarahagi in front of me, I will. I think I'll fall over and I'll kiss you on your forehead because the first thing I remember when we were in Zanzibar, I walked into the restaurant and I said, I want wali namarahagi. And the guy looked at me and he's like, you want local food? I said, yes, I want wali namarahagi. Was at breakfast, and he said, how do you know this? And I said, I ate it here in Tanzania. And he made, especially went and made it for me that day. And I remember that night, we sat down, and um, they brought the wali namarahagi, and he said he made it like his mom makes it.
Nice.
And I tasted it, and I said to him, this isn't the hotel style that it was made. This was made
Yeah.
proper.
That's the thing, and the reason why. Wait, sorry, I'm apparently muted. That's the thing. The reason why I bring up food is because in my travels, I think a very good way to experience culture is with other cultures' food. It's also a place where when you can break bread with someone,
Yeah,
you can start a conversation.
yeah,
You can get to know this person and this culture through their food, and
yeah,
everybody loves food. There's uh, that's what's also amazing about different countries and their foods. Like you experience these different spices and the way they mix things together. And I mean, again with Tanzania, I never knew rice could taste so good. And I know, guys, people are watching this and like, dude, what's up with the rice? You have no idea. If you've never tried Tanzanian rice, you will have no idea. And the only reason why I know is because my wife, her client is from Tanzania, and she brought back Tanzanian rice, went to dinner at that client's house, and had Tanzanian rice. And I was like, this is like, I've got to go to Tanzania just for this rice. And it's amazing. And I think also the same with Egypt. Egypt, they're very big on food. Like they love their food. If you go over
yeah.
for dinner, they're gonna do a big spread, and they
Spread.
want to share it with you, and all these different kinds of flavors and interesting things. There's something called molokhia, which is their I wouldn't say their national dish, but it's a very
Mm,
popular dish.
yeah.
It's a plant based type of
Mm,
thing. It looks like a soup. It looks like a green soup,
yeah.
but usually you have rice, you have chicken, and you can either have fried onions or raw onions. You put that
Mm,
all on a plate, and then you pour the molokhia over it, so it's like almost like a soupy
yeah.
thing, and then you eat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't like it. I hated it,
Mm,
but a
mm,
lot of people like it, like a lot of people.
mm,
But that's also something. I think food is something that can bring people together, and we can learn about each other. Now, this is bringing me to the point of
mm,
learning about each other's culture, which is really what we want to talk about. This whole
mm,
cultural intolerance or tolerance.
mm, mm,
I think. Let me start by saying I think that the best way to
mm,
combat racism is to learn about each other's cultures. I think a lot of the times when
mm,
people don't understand a culture, there's a
mm,
fear, there's a misunderstanding, there's assumptions that are being made, like, oh, why do you do this or why do you do that? Oh, you slaughter sheep, so that's like evil and
mm,
bad. Oh, you
yeah.
you you eat a certain way, or you eat on the floor, you eat with your hands, and that's
Mm,
like disgusting. You're
mm,
uncivilized or whatever. All these terrible assumptions that some people make, and
mm,
so for example, Egypt, the most Muslims, so they don't eat bacon.
mm,
Like that's also
yeah.
something that people might see as like weird. So learning about cultures, learning about, okay, why do you do these things? Why do you have these traditions? I think break down uh, the prejudice that can happen. I think learning about different cultures is very healthy and builds that tolerance. So even though you may not agree with it, and this is where the cultural shock comes in, because I didn't agree necessarily with everything that Egyptians did, their beliefs, their way of living, all that stuff. But I learned to respect it, understand it, and let them be as they were, because they weren't hurting anyone. They enjoyed their traditions. I have my traditions, and we all lived in harmony to some extent. So you can give your opinions now.
Before I get to my opinions, I see Chico Munez is saying the Filipinos told me that they think South Africans are super dangerous. Good grief, the Filipinos are the worst people when it comes to danger, bro. You end up in the wrong side of the Philippines. You're not coming back home. It will be like ending up in a drug cartel in Mexico or in Colombia. Okay, um, this is to break the ice. You know, get if I want to start with like a scenario. Let's ask this question first, Joe. What's happening with our young generation now? My generation, your generation. I'm talking 35 and younger. I'm not that old. It's only the gray from the farming. Um, if you look at identity, what gives us identity? What makes you you? What makes Joe Joe? What makes Herman Herman? You know, I quipped earlier that I said if I want to go and visit, see my ancestors, I'll go to Europe.
Mm.
Every person has that in his life. Building foundations of who you are on your ancestral heritage, your history, your faith, your religion, and
Yes.
that's the strange thing I found while traveling all over the world. As you said, there's a lot of things I cannot or do not agree with, but I will not enforce my views on those people because they are different from mine. But I always look for those things that are similar,
Mm.
and I found in Asia, in Africa, we all believe in a deity or a higher being. Let's say a higher being. We all believe in family as the structure of our survival. We all believe or have a cultural historical background. We all hold on to those foundations for things that are similar to mine. People will ask me, "Oh, why do you love the Asians?" I said, because of three things. They work hard, they believe in a higher being, and they respect other people.
Mm.
And the most important thing, Joe, when you look at this, race race and fear, and let's get back also get down to guilt. A lot of people will sit in their houses, they'll go on holiday just around their area, and they only interact with people that they know. you know they are too afraid to go outside of their cocoon of safety. They are too afraid to walk up to the Muslim and say salam alaikum.
Mm.
How much did it take me to walk up and properly greet a Muslim by saying Salam alaikum? And he'll greet me back, Malaikum salam. I respect him.
Mm.
And a lot of them will ask me, "Are you Muslim?" I say, "No, I'm Christian, but I respect you." And immediately we're bonding.
Yes.
I won't go up to a Buddhist and just go. And in India, I'll do this.
Yeah.
And every Hindu I see, I say Namaste. And immediately a lot of Christians will freak out. "Oh, you can't go Namaste." What does namaste mean? Namaste means I look into your soul, you see me, I see you. If I'm wrong, guys, please correct me, but that's how I could remember it. There's nothing wrong in that greeting. By greeting somebody like this, and immediately that person respects you.
Yeah.
Why do we have racial prejudice? It's fear, Joel. It's fear that we are building on, fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
What's the easiest way to get rid of that fear is to suppress those people you do not understand. If I do not understand um, you're from USA, but if I'm correct, you're from Mexican heritage. If I'm correct,
Uh, Quite a mix,
no.
but yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So okay. Sorry if I'm wrong about that. Okay. I do not know your heritage, or I immediately like certain people on Twitter went and said you're Egyptian. Immediately, because I do not understand where you come from, where you do, I start oppressing you.
Mm.
All right. How do I oppress you? The easiest way is to ignore you. And if you ignore somebody, of different language and culture, That's fear.
Yeah.
What happens then next is guilt. Because you ignored that person, because you didn't give him time to explain to you who he is, where he comes from, why he believes in Buddha, or why he's a Hindu, or why he's a Muslim, or why he's a Christian. Um, you didn't give him time to explain his cultural heritage without forcing you to become one.
Yeah.
You forcing them to eventually use guilt against you. I've seen a very strange thing. As I've seen it in Asia, I've seen it in India. A lot of Europeans going to those countries and trying to become Thais, trying to become Vietnamese. They trying to become Indian, and the local people do not always agree with that.
Mm.
They do not always like that, and that breaks my heart to see people trying to be somebody else that they are not, trying to be a culture, or trying to free themselves from a guilt that's not theirs to carry.
Mm.
Um, the best thing I heard was in Vietnam when in the DMZ in Hue, a lot of the Vietnamese veterans, war veterans from Vietnam and America, they'll get together at the DMZ bar. And a lot of them said, Vietnamese said to the Americans, stop putting the guilt of the Vietnam War on your children.
Mm.
That is not their guilt to carry anymore. Our children does not carry the guilt of the Vietnam War anymore. What happened is that because of that guilt, we are now sitting with a situation where I have a cancel culture in a young generation that feels I need to say something, but I don't know how, because my parents' guilt for things they did was placed on my shoulders. And if you do not experience that, I would say 180-degree swing over, to start realizing that, you know what, you don't have to feel guilty for what your parents did,
Mm.
but you can stand shoulder to shoulder with a person from a different culture, from a different language, from a different heritage, and make things work. I've
Exactly.
seen that all over the world.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's me ranting on a monologue.
No, by all means. Um,
I'm going to drink something and you're going to do the talking now.
well, through let's see what the some of the comment. Well, first let me comment on what you
Okay.
just said. I think you are absolutely correct. It's another way. I think I haven't. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't traveled in quite a while, and I do miss it. I do miss traveling. I love getting into a plane. I love going to another country and experiencing their cultures and stuff like that. And everything you just said is spot on. This new generation, where people, their parents, feel the need to pass on this guilt that they shouldn't be doing. Which you're right, breeds all this negativity and these social justice warriors who think now it's my turn to now fight the good fight the good fight, and right the wrongs of my parents and stuff like that, or my ancestors, or whatever it may be, instead of actually saying, I think what maybe the parents should have done has been like, yes, we did this terrible thing in a war or whatever, but moving forward, it's done. We need to now find a way where we can coexist in society and in our lives. That the people we were fighting against aren't bad people. It's not their fault, but it was actually the powers that be at the time that caused this pain that we experienced. And I think that is lost in translation, so to speak. Excuse the pun. Um,
No, you're actually quite right there.
yeah.
Lost in translation. That's
Um,
exactly right.
So
Yeah.
Yanni van der Valt says, Joe Emilio, this is very true. I was in Colombia in February of this year, and we went to a few local restaurants with my local colleagues. Was so awesome. So Colombian food. I have never been to Colombia. My
Uh,
word, Philippines. Sorry. Yes.
Did he bring back some white powder? I hope too. For the grace of God, I hope he didn't.
It's Yanni, so I wouldn't be surprised. I'm kidding, Yanni. Chico says, my word Philippines has all kinds of rice you can imagine. I can't tell the difference by looking at it, but apparently there is a difference. That's actually very true. Germ Warfare says, hello. Thanks, Germ, for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, you won't see it. Let me actually change screens. It doesn't matter. His mug is in the background. You'll see it eventually. And then we have here Chico again saying, this is why I say culture shocks are necessary to break down barriers. We should definitely tolerate and respect one another, but without forcing our beliefs onto others. That's something that Robin said. She's agreeing with what you said. Germ has a comment here. Multiculturalism is a failure of postmodernism. It is unsustainable. Comment?
Jim, multiculturalism. What exactly do you mean by that? Um,
I think what he means is like the idea that all cultures can exist in
Harmony.
in harmony. Yes.
Yes, we can. I
Um,
do firmly believe, and I'll disagree with Jim on one of those points. Multiculturalism is what's making this world unique as we are. That's what's making us as human. Since the Tower of Babel in the Bible. Now, it's been written up in the Torah, the Quran, and the Bible. And funny enough, when you start looking at Hinduism, you start looking at Buddhism, and all these other, you find similar stories that refers to the Tower of Babel.
all right, hold on.
Um,
Let
yeah.
me just stop you for a quick second because I got the
Okay.
definition. In
Yeah.
reference to political science, multiculturalism can be defined as a state's capacity to effectively and efficiently deal with cultural plurality within its sovereign borders.
Mm,
Multiculturalism is a political philosophy that involves ideologies and policies which vary widely. So it's actually
political.
quite it has a range of meanings, and within the context of sociology and political philosophy, all of the colloquial definitions. I'm reading something that's kind of half here.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's a political
In
thing. Sounds like it.
No, in a political sense,
Yeah.
look, like guys, let's face it. When you have a government deciding over whatever culture or let's say they have 11 different cultures in one country with one, you cannot have that. It doesn't work. That I do agree with. It's unsustainable, and that's why we are currently sitting in certain countries with trouble. But when you go to countries that has monocultures, uh, countries like Thailand, or Asian countries, where literally most of the borders are around those countries. Although they have small cultures or smaller, let's say, subcultures, that is not the unilateral culture of a country, and that works.
Hmm.
But then again, if you have people in power in your political system that understands the difference between a person A and person B and person C, the differences between them, understanding and respecting each of their views, it might work.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we as humans, um, we carry too much guilt, we carry too much fear, and in the end, we want to shout to the world who I am, and I'm going to force you to change your view to my view. And if you do not change your view, I'm going to burn down your statues. I'm going to break down everything you have. And then I'm going to start kicking and shouting and tantruming. And what they don't realize, you shout today, tomorrow you shall cry.
Yes.
And the one beautiful thing is that was what I was when we were in India. Um, back then, when me and Linnell were still younger and crazier than today, We did a 3 week backpack. We started off in New Delhi through and ended up in Kolkata. Um, and one of the things that I learned in India is doesn't matter how you plan, you can plan as much as you want. If the train comes at 10 o'clock, it will arrive at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes, boss. That is amazing. And one thing I learned and was taught by India, I'm in their country and culture now.
Yeah.
Either I adapt, but still keep my virtue
Yes.
for who I am. I don't have to change. I just need to fit into their schedule.
Yes. Win in Rome.
When
That
in Rome.
win in Rome. It's a look. I think with Germ's comment, the multiculturalism is a failure of postmodernism. Look, the idea that look at South Africa. The idea that the Rainbow Nation and all that stuff. I believe that whole notion has failed, and it's not because of the people. It's absolutely not because of the people. It's because of the
Politics.
government. It's because of politics.
No.
However, when people are together, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've been a part of it. I've been to, even in Cape Town, to my friend who is Indian, staunched Indian. Like they have Indian traditions, everything about them is Indian.
Yeah.
And I go into their house and it smells like curry 24/7. And
Mm,
it's just, you can see they've got that Indian heritage
yeah.
in their house and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I don't feel off put by it. I'm like, wow, I'm actually walking into what seems to be an interesting place, and they're very, Indian-like, they bow and all that stuff.
Mm,
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually had dinner with them, and they had Indian food, and it was beautiful. And that's what I think we're trying to get at, is that people in a country can still be in touch with their traditions, and they're allowed to do
mm,
their traditions. They should be allowed to
yeah.
do their
Yes.
traditions. And a type of cultural tolerance is that we're getting at is, if, like you just said, if we're in a different country, we need to respect
Mm,
the way they do things, their traditions, because we're in their country now. We're in their house. Just like when I was in my friend's house, I couldn't be like, "Oh, can you quickly just put like an air freshener because the curry smell is
mm,
annoying me?" I can't do that.
mm-mm,
You know,
mm-mm,
I have to respect where I'm at. It's their house. Um, Now, when you take it onto a broader scale, like a whole entire country, this is where I think we're going to get a bit political, where we start talking about the federal
mm,
system, making
mm,
sure that there's like almost like Europe, how there's Italy, France,
mm,
Germany, Portugal, all different
mm,
cultures, very different cultures, but they found a way to kind of live in their own little plots of land, so to speak, and people can go between borders and
mm,
experience different things, and there's no problem.
mm.
You know what I mean? So that's what I think we're getting at. That there is a level of tolerance that everyone can develop, and I think South Africa hasn't been given that opportunity yet to really thrive on that level.
Yeah. Joe, but where does this all start? Um, you came from the United States, you went to Egypt, you came to South Africa. And I think Africa as a continent was probably a major culture shock, South Africa itself for you. But how do we teach a young generation or a new generation? How do you get them to understand this?
I think, yeah. How do you teach tolerance, cultural tolerance? It's a difficult one. I know that the only way I learned that was by traveling. I think,
Exactly.
but the problem is now, obviously, not everyone is blessed to be able to
Mm,
travel. So, I think it can go back to tradition. A moral compass, so to speak.
mm,
That whole, like I said, um, if I was to have a kid
mm,
and we were to go to my Indian friend's house, I
mm,
would tell that kid, you're gonna smell some
mm,
things, you're gonna witness
mm,
this stuff. Don't be
Yeah.
rude. Don't stare. Don't comment. You must respect it. It's their house. Stuff like that. Don't be afraid of it.
Mm,
Rather experience it. Be okay
mm,
with the food. It's okay if you don't like it, but don't be rude about it. That kind of stuff. It's all about
mm,
teaching respect and politeness, manners.
mm, mm,
I think that's a good start. And then
mm.
maybe even as simple as let's be honest. In South Africa, there are many different places you can go to experience culture.
Mm.
I mean,
Oh
like
yes,
if
yes.
I come to your farm, you live a
Mm,
certain way. You're a farmer. You live a certain
yep.
way. You have certain traditions. You hunt maybe.
Mm,
And that's a type of culture.
mm,
And I can be willing to take maybe my child to your place, and we can learn the culture.
mm.
That's a good way as well to start. It can be
But not.
local.
He can come and observe and learn,
Yeah.
but not change where he comes from, who he is.
Yes.
That is my biggest problem I have, Joe. Um, of all the look, we've most of the SADC countries we've done in Africa. We've been to Malawi, I've been to Tanzania. So except for Angola, or let's say all the southern countries we've been to. Asia, I've been to China, I've been to Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, India, and then Europe as well. Nowhere did I have the urge to change where who I am and where I come from. But I did indulge
Yes.
in certain things like their food. All right. As you said, to perceive that change of to how did I explain to a 5-year old uh, Walter was 4 years old when he first went to Thailand. All right. How do you explain that to a 4-year old child? All right. You tell him it's going to be different. And the funny thing is, he adapted faster than we as parents did. And that scares me up until today. The fact that our son is much more adaptable in a foreign country where his foreign culture, things he doesn't understand. Hang on, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, my wife just brought me some coffee. Thanks.
Okay.
And that adaptability, there are certain things he doesn't understand, and we'll explain to him, and he'll like, oh, okay. And he'll just be on his merry way again, making friends. They don't understand each other.
Hmm.
You know, language for me and you is a major barrier. Um, and there goes this 4 or 5 year old boy, and he starts playing with the locals, and I'm like, huh? How do you understand each other? They just do. So somewhere along the line, our prejudice, fear, and guilt blocks us from building that relationship. Well, my son hasn't changed. He's the same Walter that went to all these countries, but he's much more richer of understanding and how to interact with different people.
Hmm. I I I agree. There's a few comments that I want to address.
Now let's go.
Reactionary opinions. I was actually on their stream before this stream. Thank you guys so much for having me once again. Please go subscribe to their channel. They've got some very interesting topics that they talk about. Three lovely guys who may seem a bit aggressive, but they're really cool guys. And an American that's part of their team, which is interesting. You need to be able to understand cultural code and language when you are a minority culture. Use the dominating culture to strengthen your own cultures. The
Hmm.
EC Anglos did this as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. And then we have Spiker Hood is back. Oh boy, it's going to be interesting tonight.
Yeah, see that.
It's great to go. Robin says it's great to go to different countries and experience each unique culture. But the problem lies in the new age where they try to force it onto us. Yes, and that's I think what we're trying to say. Like we don't want to
No.
enforce culture onto other people. You know, like with this whole idea that you have to be a certain way. Of course not. Culture is a very interesting phenomenon in human history and in our human race. It instills traditions in every ethnic group, so to speak. It creates a sort of clan-like unity amongst people, you know, but at the same time makes us unique in our own kind of way. We might be part of a group, but we're still unique as part of
Yeah.
that group, which I think obviously breeds the prejudice, but at the same time breeds curiosity. And there's nothing wrong with embracing a culture. There's nothing wrong with like for example, I take me for example, right? So in Egypt, I didn't want to be Egyptian, but when I came to South Africa, I was like, I like South Africa. I like the culture here. You know, I want to experience more about this. You know, I even started staying like lekker and brew and um, you know, tech. You know, I started like that's how you know you're
Yeah.
starting to really
Yeah.
appreciate the culture when you
Yeah.
start infusing it a bit with yourself. But I'm still me. I'm
Yeah.
still like when I'm at home and stuff like that. I still have the same beliefs. Still Christian. Still all that stuff.
Yeah. So if you fly back to the US,
Hmm.
do you think you changed?
Yes, absolutely. If I go to that's the funny part. If I go to America, right, they're not going to see me as American. They will be like, "Where are you from?" They might, if I don't say anything, if I don't talk, they might see me as a
Mm,
Mexican
mm,
because I look very Mexican.
mm.
But the moment I start talking and the moment I start having a conversation, they'll be like,
Oh,
"Where are you from? Where are you from?" And
mm.
I'll say like, "Well, I was born here, but then I moved here, then I moved there,"
Well,
and then they'll be like, "You're not American."
yeah. You see, that's the thing. That's why I asked you mine. I asked this actually as a trap question for you. A lot of people, as you say, misconceptions from where your country was. A very interesting thing happened to me in the Montmartre in Paris. Sorry, guys, if I don't sit still, I can't for the life of me, I could never sit still. In school, I used to get hidings for not sitting still. Um, I remember we were up in Montmartre, and Linnell said, no, she's going to Salvador Dali's a museum. And I'm like, no, look, I'm tired. I just want to take in. Now, for those who have been to Paris and in the Montmartre, once you go through from the red light district where the Moulin Rouge and all those places are, you go up towards the hill. There's a cathedral, all right? And me being a person, I like history. I like to see how buildings were built. I love to see how the foundations were laid. Um, you know, I don't know. For some reason, I just do like that. So I was up at the cathedral, and I was walking down. Now, everywhere in the Montmartre, there's a specific group of people, and they will come to you and try and sell you trinkets and tickets to enter the cathedral and scam you, out of anything they can. Right now, we've been traveling now in Europe for 3 weeks, and prior to arriving in Paris, we were down in Vers Pontegard, and it was a southern part of France, sunny, lovely, warm. So, and we were riding out with the bicycles. We were walking in the sun, so I got a bit of a darker tan than usual.
Mm.
And this guy came up to me, and he said to me, first he spoke French to me, and I said, "Sorry, I don't speak French." And he's like, "Okay," and he switched over to perfect English, and he said, "You want to buy a ticket?" And at that stage, I was so irritated because I wanted to get to the coffee shop, buy a coffee, and just sit and enjoy myself and relax. And I said to him, "Sorry if this is a family friendly channel. Fuck off." And he looked at me, Joe, with a look that could have killed me, probably. And he said to me, "Fuck you, you fucking Arab."
Okay.
Do I look like Arab to you?
Actually, yeah. I'm
I don't know if it was,
very light Arab, like a Lebanese kind of Arab, like not
but
a, you know.
I always joked after with that is like, if you insult me correctly, you know. But that is the problem we have. We will look at somebody, and as you said, and that's why I said I asked you the question earlier. How many times and how will we judge somebody on their appearance
Mm,
and say, "Oh, you're not American. Oh, you're Arab."
mm.
No, I'm not Arab. I'm from South Africa. My parents comes from Europe.
Yeah.
You know, my great grandparents come. This is what the sun does to you. Um, and you look at that, and I said to myself afterwards, I was like, how could this guy call me an Arab? All right. And I went to the first barber shop, which was funny enough, owned by Turks.
Mm.
And I asked the guy, do I look like an Arab to you? And he looks at me and is like, yeah, maybe a little. I said, shave off the beard immediately. But isn't that where our problem lies, Joe? That we will look at somebody, decide that they belong to a certain cultural group, and we're actually insulting them
Mm.
instead of asking.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen so many times people will be in a different country. Um, they sort of want to push that the fact that the, I want to say, you will tell somebody, he'll say to you, I'm Indian, and you'll tell him, no, you're not Indian, because I'm telling you you're not Indian. Isn't that where trouble starts?
Yes.
Isn't that where race problem starts? Instead of saying, oh, okay, sorry, I was wrong, you are Indian. Sorry, you saying I'm Arab. No, Joe, I'm not Arab. I'm Afrikaans. I'm a white South African. And saying, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Mm.
But by continuing to say, but you do look like an Arab. Look at your hair, man. Look at your skin. Look at how you build. No, you're not from European heritage. No, Herman, you are not. You are from Arab. And isn't that where our problem is?
Mm.
Continuing to push something for what I decided.
Yeah. No.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I might just use another swear word now.
Yeah, I think there's. I don't think we're gonna solve this problem in one stream, to be honest. But there are flaws with many different ways of people, the way they think. I mean, like Beth said it here now. We don't need to teach children tolerance. They just know. They might ask after some things get
Yeah,
done a certain way. Sorry, they might ask after why some things get done a certain way, but they are very tolerant. Now that's obviously because of the innocence of a child. They are curious by nature as well. I don't have kids, so I wouldn't know. You'd probably be able to comment better on that. But I think if you, as far as I know, when you're a kid, you're innocent. You're just very curious about life. You just want to play. You want to make friends. I know when I was a kid, I had many different friends of color. I didn't care, and somewhere along the line, as we grow up, whether it be from our parents or interactions with other human beings, we forget about that. We forget about that we when we were kids we were accepting. Maybe yes, some of the things we ask questions about, but that's because of our curious nature.
yeah. Curiosity.
Curiosity, exactly. Now, yes, there's a lot of different aspects that need to be considered here. Upbringing, situations in life, were your parents. Did you have both parents or not? And if so, did they teach you right? Because let's be honest. I mean, here's something that's going to be a bit crazy for everyone to listen to, but this happened in Egypt. Um, my parents used to be very good. Used to have really good friends, and they were Muslim. Not that but I have to say that. Not that I'm trying to say oh, they were terrible because they were Muslim. No, I'm just saying
No,
they
no.
were Muslim. We were Christian. They had an 8-year-old at the time, And the 8-year-old, apparently, my mom told me this after it happened, because I had noticed that those friends weren't coming over. It had been like a while, and I asked my mom like, "Hey, why doesn't so and so come over anymore?" And she said because the son, who was 8 years old at the time, came up to my mother and said that me, should die because I'm American. Now, that is an influence that could have been from the parents, or it could have been from maybe the school that the kid was going to. He heard it from
Oh,
friends,
yeah, other groups, yeah.
other groups. Now, I don't know if the child understood the gravity of what they were saying, but that is an example of how, there are other factors in this world that can influence us, and not for the worst, so that we're not culturally tolerant. So I'm not saying that what you and I are talking about right now is going to solve the problem, but
No, no.
I think it's good to have these conversations so that it gets people talking and maybe a bit
Yeah.
more aware.
Joe, you know what? You don't need to sorry, you don't need to travel to other countries. All right. As I said in the beginning of the stream, it's a disease. It's an itch in my ass. It's something that's me and my wife have in common. We as a family have in common. If you travel South Africa, make a point of going just up the west coast. You go to Namakwaland. You go and listen to how the Namakwaland people are speaking Namakwa Afrikaans. How do they say you kill a snake? Is breekslag slang se hoepel rug. For me in Afrikaans, I'll say ek maak die slang dood. That richness of that language. You can drive into Lesotho and meet the Basotho people. You can drive into the cultural heartland of Zululand. All in this country, you can teach your children cultural tolerance. But what's the problem we have? We've become so narrow-minded in our own countries. I'm from an Afrikaans community, all right? I could, by the age of 12, I couldn't speak proper English. And we had neighbors bought the farm next door, and they were English. And my dad said, listen, yeah, you are going to speak English.
Hmm.
When I went to high school, my English was better, far better than the normal child from my local community. I could communicate better than my teachers. Okay, so I went through high school. My friend moved away, he went to Boys High. And as I left, I went to university. He stayed in Pretoria, and I had an English friend in university, but because I was talking Afrikaans the whole time, my English became poorer, right? Then I met my wife, right? She's of Irish and Afrikaans descent. So with Granny and my father-in-law, I could speak English. But when we moved to Brits, what do we speak? Afrikaans. And I realized that within a fraction of a few years, my English went from pretty good to poor. And while traveling the world, I realized that, and even in my own country, that people will look at you. I don't know how to you see. This is where my Afrikaans comes in. I haven't spoken English. Um, if you do not, if you're so narrow-minded in your own language that you are not willing to speak or at least do the basics of greetings in other languages, you will not have that cultural tolerance. Ko South Africa, wana gasana bulela se three languages. Rina babulela Setswana se Bichane. Wabon. Hasana bulela Setswana pile. Maar at least they will verstaan Bichan.
That's really cool.
I just said to you, I can speak a little bit of Setswana. I don't understand it quite well. But the fact that I can at least try and communicate in Setswana, because I'm from a Setswana area, I've garnered more respect from the Tswana people. And you know what the best is, Joe? Once I start they'll first want to talk English, and then I'll tell them, listen here, I don't speak the language of the colonialist. I either speak Afrikaans or I speak Tswana, and I speak Tswana to them. They'll respect me by speaking, and then either speak to me in Afrikaans when I struggle and we don't understand each other. And that is for me the most important concept. If you can, we can look past that barrier. Oh, this guy believes in the forefather ghost. He prays to the forefathers. Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, this guy's Muslim. I can't talk to him. I only do business with you, bro. Yeah, it's okay. I can buy stuff from you, but I'm not going to his house because he's wrong.
Mm.
Who makes you right? Who
Mm.
is more in the wrong now? You proclaiming yourself higher because you think you are right? I'm sorry, but I'll rather have sit around a fire in a cultural heartland with a Tswana that prays to his forefather, that is truthful and honest towards me,
Mm.
than I'll sit down with a person who calls himself a Christian but goes behind my back, turns around and stabs you in the back.
Mm.
And that's what travel has taught me.
Mm.
If we can understand each other in some form or way, but not forcing you to change who you are, that is what will make this world be a better place.
Perfect. We have hit an hour, and I think that is a very good place to
Mm.
stop. I don't
Joe,
like.
yeah,
I don't.
sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Um, sorry, I just called Jim's last comment. He said, I'm so brown that when I landed in Paris, the locals said to me, welcome home. Yeah, Jim, thanks for breaking the ice. Um, Joe, just before we finish off the stream, I would like to do in the end, before we end off, I just like to do a personal thank you note for the viewers.
Of course.
For what happened with the tobacco thing, and then I would just want to do a quick short explanation of what's happening.
All
All right.
right. Cool. Before you get to that, I just want to address some of the comments that we may have missed.
Yeah,
Yanni
let's go.
saying Herman the Arab Rus. I think that's going to be a new thing for you. Um,
Good grief.
Jim Morphy earlier saying the more similar people are to one another, the less we think about tolerance. Intolerance is a result of too many denominators. Yes, I do agree with
That's
that.
100%.
And then
Sorry. Although Jim is intolerant towards me, I'll see his reaction on that one.
this is a bit of a long comment from Reactionary Opinions. He says every culture that exists today is a combination of dominant cultures and cultures that are in constant defensive. This is why there are certain cultures that are vastly recognizable and others that constitute smaller aspects of culture that have been defeated. For example, Latin, Germanic, Frank, combined with Anglo. You can almost measure how much of each culture pervades in the Anglo, and which one more so. Some cultures are stronger than others. This is very true. This is actually very, very,
Yeah.
very, very true.
Yeah.
And then I, okay, I don't know what germ being random. Makal Kanaka is in the chat saying Afrikaans or nothing. So he's quite biased, as you can see. Yeah. So and then reactionary opinions agreeing with you, saying yes, Herman, that's culture, code, language. You strengthen your own culture by adapting aspects of the majority culture. And then there's yeah. So don't go anywhere, guys. Herman is going to give us an update on the tobacco situation. But before he does, I just want to say one more thing. I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, I don't think that we'll come up with a solution in one stream. So I wouldn't mind if you came back and we continued this conversation. I think there's still more that can be spoken about.
Yeah.
But I think conversations like this will help people think. As you can see, there were a lot of different, or not different, but there was a lot of comments coming through, people giving their opinion as well, which I greatly encourage. So please, guys, those of you that did, thank you so much. Germ, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.
And giving your opinion as well. Germ's got a very strong opinion, which I always enjoy when he gives it. And so does Mikhail. He'll go on a historical rant in just a moment,
I can see.
which is great. I welcome that. So anyway, so I just wanted to say, Herman, thank you, and as well, thank you to the viewers. And yeah, I hope that we can do this again. And now I'll give it to you
Jim,
to say what you want to say.
I swear, Jim is skinnering about me because I just said his name out loud. Sort of a cultural thing, and somebody skinnering about you, you sort of say their name out loud. Joe, thank you. I would appreciate to be back on your channel. There's so many things I actually had in lined up, and I wrote them down. Stories that happened and things that happened to us as a family that changed our views, but didn't change who we are. Joe, thanks. I would just first of all thank you for all the viewers that started on Monday morning sharing my video, you included, and everybody that gave me the time on live streams to talk about the tobacco industry and what happened in the beginning. I'm really humbled tonight to have seen how many South Africans came together and promoted that video. In the end, it's not about me. It's about my fellow farmers. Not just about my fellow farmers, but about my fellow South Africans. The tourist industry is now going under. The wine industry, and if for every industry that takes a nosedive, it hits closer to home, and eventually the domino effect will hit harder on us in the end as farmers. Just to give the guys an update, yes, guys, there's FITA has a court case. We have, as from farmers in South Africa, with Batsa, and all the guys have court cases ongoing. The situation on the ground for us is now at a dire state. If the ban is not lifted, guys, and I'm not saying 2-3 weeks, I'm saying within the next 2 weeks at the most of the farmers' production will be cut by 50%. Right. That means a small scale farmer, most of them will not survive. Right. Sorry. That's from the nice coffee my wife made me. um, we most of these small scale. I'm a small scale farmer, but I have other crops that can help me survive. But if I'm cut by half, I'm cutting my stuff by half. That's a fact. All right. So a lot of the temporary stuff that I would have employed throughout the season is going to be off my farm, and most of the farms that's going to be a problem. And what South Africa, all we should now understand is, you're talking about 8,000 people that will be without a job. With that, the fact that we have a 50% production cut, probably on which is now becoming more reality, there's a probability that by next season sales will be cut 50% on our price. That means if I get 40 Rand a kilo, I will only receive 20 Rand. And only at the end of the season, and that's the year after that, February, I will probably, if lucky, I'll get the rest of the 50%. That's not a guarantee. I might just get 75% of the other 50%. And that's going to be seen more and more in South Africa. If what people are not realizing, by continuing to be sheeple and not to question the leadership and not stand up in South Africa and say, let's talk about this. Let's stand up. Let's fight for this. Guys, we are going to end up, you who earns a 25,000 Rand salary now, be careful that that salary is not halved by next year. That your boss will walk in one day and say, okay, you can work full time. Oh, but by the way, I'm going to pay you 12 grand. You're going to say, I'm going to the unions. be careful that the economy is not in such a dire state that the unions will mean nothing.
Is that what you wanted to say? Is that it?
Yeah.
All right.
I think if I continue ranting now, we'll still be here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
No worries. Stay on the line. I'll give you a proper
Yeah.
goodbye once I've signed off
Thanks.
here. But yeah, once again, ladies and gentlemen, some very strong words from Herman at the end of this stream. So please share this video, let people know what's going on, and also let people start talking about cultural tolerance or intolerance. And I'll definitely have Herman back in the coming weeks. We'll continue the conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, please share, and comment below with your I'm sorry, Mikhail is saying something here.
He's got sorry, Joe. He's got an interesting surname. I don't know if it's Kinnika
Yeah.
or that is my grandmother's and my grandfather's surname is Kinnika. I do, by the hope of grace of God, we're not family.
Well, I haven't seen the surname very often, so
It is a very. That's why I'm looking at this, and this is Kinnika, and that there are very, very few people in South Africa with that surname. Oh, good grief!
economically, he says economically it will
I
take.
think I had to. No, somebody. No, my wife didn't. No, it's okay.
Economically, it will take farmers a projected 3 to 5 years to recover. Would you agree with that?
Depends on how serious the damage will be on the economy overall in the next few months. Um, there's so many factors, Joe, that's now currently in play that not even the best economist will be able to do a prediction for us. I think once this lockdown is lifted, and we sort of getting back to the normal of what we think will be normal, I think then only will we be able to project what will be coming for the agricultural sector, what will be coming with the other sectors. At this stage, it can be a year, it can be a decade.
Wow.
There's so many things so many factors that we'll have to make 10 live streams about that.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. Once again, Herman, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And it was a very lovely conversation. I cannot wait to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, subscribe if you're new to my channel. Please support, and don't forget that you can subscribe to Herman's channel by going to the link in the description below. You'll find it right there. Until I see you at the next show, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your evening, be safe, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.